welcome to our special coverage of the latest cabinet reshuffle. In today's rejig, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh has inducted 8 new faces on his team. Moneycontrol Kharge has been sworn in as the new railway minister. Oscar Fernandez has taken oath as the new surface transport minister. Girija Vyas has stepped in for Ajay Markan, taking over as the housing and poverty alleviation minister. Sisram Ola from Rajasthan has been appointed as the new labour minister. K.S. Rao being sworn in as the new textile minister. The Prime Minister has also appointed 4 new ministers of state in today's reshuffle, which is being seen as the last one before the general elections. What is the implication, if any, of today's cabinet reshuffle? What does one make of all the developments over the weekend, where we saw that 17-year-old marriage between the JDU and the BJP come apart, and also with the promise of reforms? Chidambaram, Anand Sharma speaking over the weekend, saying that in the month of June itself, the government is going to unveil a slew of reforms. What do we make of all of these developments? Joining me now, Sunil Jain, managing editor of the Financial Express, right here with me in our Delhi studio. Rajdeep Sardesai, editor-in-chief of FCN and IBN. My colleague and our economic policy editor, Siddharth Zarabi, here with us in the studio. R. Jagannathan, editor-in-chief, web and publishing division at Network 18, joins us from Mumbai. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us. We're calling this show the slog over. So if I can sort of use a cricketing analogy or a cricketing metaphor, Rajdeep, the team that has been inducted today doesn't qualify as a T20 team, neither does it qualify as a test match team. So what do we make of this cabinet reshuffle?
I don't even think it's worth a program, because what it really shows is the intense amount of fatigue which has set in. This is not a cabinet reshuffle which has been driven by any big idea beyond just, and not even fill in the blanks, but just the necessity to accommodate a few individuals ahead of elections, and the fact that the government has now run out of options in terms of really new faces or new talent that you can bring in. So it's really an exercise which elevates mediocrity to the cabinet level, and frankly, to my mind, it will neither enthuse the government in any manner, nor will it really bring any discredit, because now we are at the, as you said, in the slog overs. And in the slog overs, the fact is, the only real batsman this government seems to have at the moment is Mr. Chidambaram, and the rest of them, frankly, are just whiling away their time till the elections come in.
You know, Siddharth, the story that we actually broke here on CNBC TV 18 was what this cabinet reshuffle would look like and what the shape it would take. But what we were hearing was that there could have been big changes. There could have been changes in defense, for instance. That was the big talked about portfolio. But again, it's this business of this government not wanting to take a risk, and perhaps not wanting to take that bigger risk in the slog overs that held them back.
Well, you know, I think the big five are more of a wish list rather than an actual possibility. And between yesterday and today, the only thing that changed was the inclusion of 3 more MOS names. So really the point that Rajdeep said. But if you look at it, one interesting number, 77, the Council of Ministers in terms of its strength. And if you were to do the numbers, I think the median age would also be perhaps around that as far as the cabinet is concerned. But one quick point, I think the bigger thing was the party reshuffle and the government reshuffle actually was a sort of secondary event to that.
You preempted my question, and I'll ask all of you that. You know, the fact is that what happened, the guys who actually got out of cabinet, the Ajay Markans, the CP Joshis who actually got out of the cabinet, that is the bigger story, wouldn't you think?
That's right. Let's be honest, Shireen, to be fair to the government, the real story is that the government has now realized, or the Congress party has now realized, its future lies in the party organization, not in the government. That there is only so much that this Manmohan Singh government can do, but the party has a chance, perhaps, given what is happening around it, to maybe salvage some lost ground. So that is why the changes that have taken place are interesting in terms of the party. A Digvijay Singh going, for example, to an Andhra Pradesh, a Madhusudan Mistry going to Uttar Pradesh, and Ajay Markan, who's a little bit more articulate, becoming the head of its media department instead of a Janardhan Dwivedi, who's a dinosaur. Who's a dinosaur. So there's been a change. Well, in government, look at what has happened. Sisram Ola. You know, there was a lovely photograph today. There was a lovely photograph today in the day on television where I don't know whether he was with his grandchildren or great-grandchildren. So here is an 84-year-old who was removed from the cabinet for alleged non-performance who comes back. Oscar Fernandez, who had been relegated, if you remember, to the statistical ministry because he really isn't a minister who can take control of a ministry, who's brought back. Moneycontrol Kharge gets a prize for losing out in the Karnataka chief ministership. So really nothing to enthuse you in the cabinet, but much in the party organization which will be carefully watched.
Jaggi, let me come to you. So as there seems to be consensus, the cabinet reshuffle, nothing to talk about really, has no great significance or implications. Your biggest takeaway from what we've seen happen as far as the party changes and the cabinet reshuffle are concerned?
See, I think it's very clear that this is the Modi effect. I think the party realizes that it has to have a political counter to the growing image perceptions about Mr. Modi, who is now very clearly the party's likely Prime Minister.
But how does this address that? How does a geriatric congregation address the Modi factor and the perception of Modi?
No, I think that's why their focus is on the party. It's not about the government. They have given up on the government. They very clearly said that there's nothing further to be had in government. One Mr. Chidambaram will bat for them, and that is good enough. Doing anything else anywhere else in the government will not make a difference. So they are trying to put the best hands and the best faces in the party who will start countering. Mr. Modi is going to make a lot of political speeches. So they need the party to be in good shape to respond to it. That is what the game is all about. I don't think it's anything about the government. The government has been written off by the party.
All right, since the government has been written off by the party, let's write off the cabinet reshuffle and talk about the other important issues. Sunil Jain, let me come to you, and everyone talking about the fact that the one guy in government that everyone seems to be placing their bets on is Mr. Chidambaram. Comes out, does a 2-hour press conference, promises a bunch of reforms as early as the end of this month, followed up by Anand Sharma over the weekend doing another press conference saying we will push with FDI in telecom, FDI in defense, so on and so forth. These are the slogovers. Do you believe that this government has now got the courage to at least push some of that stuff through?
You know, I'm glad you mentioned Mr. Anand Sharma, and I'm glad you talked about the fact that he wants FDI and telecom to be raised to 100%. You know, I think one of the fundamental points that we got to make, I agree with what everybody said so far, that the government seems to be of the view that one, finance minister can bat for all of them. He's enough for the last 5 overs. And we need to strengthen the party. That's fine. The problem with what Mr. Chidambaram said and what Mr. Anand Sharma said is that if there's one ministry which seems to be blocking almost everything today, it is the industry ministry. It is the industry ministry which has put all manner of funny riders which have made sure that 8 months after the government staked its life on getting multi-brand retail in, you don't have a single multi-brand retail person in. It is the industry ministry which is opposing having FDI in brownfield, pharmaceuticals. So when Mr. Anand Sharma talks about the fact that we need to increase caps and we need to do these things, I think the biggest problem really is that the government as a whole is not taking the decision that it needs to take. So whether you get a Sisram Ola in or whether you get a Mr. Moneycontrol Kharge in, that's not the issue. The issue is that there are 3 or 4 burning matters before the cabinet. One of them is gas pricing. Now that's not getting taken. There's a burning issue of fixing telecom.
But on the issue, let's look at those